Hi, welcome to the Penny Podcast. I'm Neha Desaraju. I'm in 10th grade and I'm a staff writer on the Sidekick.
Hi, I'm Pranske. I'm in 11th grade and I'm the executive sports editor for the Sidekick.
Hi, I'm Andrés. I'm in 11th grade and I'm the Coppell Student Media web producer.
If you haven't watched our previous episodes of the podcast, the Penny Podcast is a weekly hybrid podcast that incorporates elements of interview and conversation with rotating hosts. And this week's guest is Helen Tan.
Hi, I'm Helen Tan, and I'm a sophomore here at CHS, and I am a competitive fencer.
So for our first segment is our headline rundown, and our first story comes from...
All right, so our first story comes from Christie Hernandez, and she wrote a story titled Sleep Paralysis Affecting Students in Coppell. Sleep paralysis is something that 7.6% of the general population experiences according to Sleep Med Review. Christie's take on the subject is very interesting since she reveals that there are CHS students here right now who experience sleep paralysis.
Our second story comes from the Sidekick Editorial Staff, and it's titled Seek Positive Relationships, Not Purely Romantic Ones, which makes an argument against taking ideas of what should happen in high school from social media and our peers instead focusing on what we want in life, memories, and to be able to enjoy these 4 years of high school to the fullest. So for our second segment, which was introduced last week, it's This Week in Music.
All right, so we're going to talk about Milo for a second. Milo is an up-and-coming artist from Nashville, Tennessee, who recently released a song titled Cyborg. It was crowned the prestigious Song of the Week status for Coppell Student Media. A write-up for the single, written by yours truly, can be found on coppellstudentmedia.com.
And of course, we all know Ariana Grande. She just released her new album, Thank You Next, and Grande now holds the record for the most simultaneous Billboard Top 100 hits. Of course, beating Drake out with his album Scorpion. All 12 of the songs on her album are within the top 50 spots on that Billboard Top 100. And the next song, Needy, comes in at 14th.
So now we are going to be talking to Helen, and we are going to be discussing with her about her competitive fencing career. So I have a question for you. How has fencing changed for you since you started in 4th grade, and how has fencing changed you?
I feel like fencing has changed me more in a way of like time management, especially with balancing fencing, school, social life with family and friends. I feel like it has improved my time management a lot. It has made me realize that I have to do things beforehand if I know that I have competitions or tournaments on specific weekends. And I also know that I have to block out a specific time for fencing practice, so I have to work my homework around that schedule.
Okay, and have you, because I know you talked about how it's changed you, and what about, how has it changed for you? Did you do it more competitively now, or did you always feel it? Did you always feel that passion throughout even high school and middle school?
I feel like at first, I just wanted to do it as just like a regular recreational sport. But the more practices I went through, I think for about 2 years of actually just going recreationally, I felt like fencing was something that I actually had a passion in, that I really enjoyed. So then in the middle of middle school I started going to tournaments around the state, and then slowly from there nationally, and then now internationally.
Can you describe your performance in the current season and what you hope to accomplish later this year?
Okay, so this season is actually my best season so far. I've competed in many World Cups internationally around the world. I went to the UK, I went to Austria just last weekend actually, and next week I'm going to Colombia in South America. So it's really taken me on this worldwide tour around the world, and I think that's just really amazing. So yeah.
How is it? Do you just pack your bags and go to Austria?
Well, yes, I guess, but it's more of like, I feel like the hardest part about just traveling is just like the time management. Like I said, it's I have to talk with my teachers beforehand. I have to be like, hey, I am not going to be here on Friday, on Monday, because I have to travel around. So can you email me like all the classwork I've missed, all the homework I've missed? And I feel like that's just like one of the harder parts about just traveling around the world and competing. It's just like just balancing out just homework and fencing simultaneously.
So obviously going to another country is going to be a special case, but what about like the normal weekends? What does your normal weekend fencing schedule look like?
Okay, so I don't have practice on Sundays, but on Saturdays I start practice at 9 and I go till 3, so 6 hours of just fencing, maybe having a lesson with my coach, maybe doing conditioning, footwork, all of that, even like the mental games, just like looking through my videos, video analysis of just myself fencing, all of that plays a part into my practice time.
Oh yeah, and so what is your practice schedule throughout the week?
Usually it's 6 to 8 on weekdays, and then obviously on Saturdays it's like 3 times as long. But it depends on if there's going to be a tournament coming up on a weekend. Usually I try to squeeze in an extra 2 hours, maybe from 5 to 9. But usually I go from 6 to 8, just on a regular.
What does your typical competition weekend look like?
Oh gosh, it's really hectic. So what happens usually is the competition is usually on Saturdays or Sundays. It's really rarely on Fridays or Mondays. So what happens is I travel on Fridays, I compete on Saturdays or Sundays, and then I come back or fly back on Mondays. So I usually skip around 1 to 2 days of school every competition.
So how often do you travel for these tournaments?
Once a month, 2 times a month, something like that.
Do you enjoy it?
Yes, yes, I do. I think I enjoy both parts. I enjoy the fencing part and I enjoy the traveling part. Just like going to every city, you get to like be a tourist and you get to look around the city. Of last weekend when I went to Austria, I went to Vienna, and I had about like half a day the afternoon where I just like walked around town. I got to visit a lot of like there was like a palace. I got to visit the one of the famous churches. It's just like really amazing to see like the culture in every single place that I visit. I feel like that's just extremely amazing.
Sounds pretty cool. I'm jealous. But through all your years of fencing, what's been the most rewarding thing, would you say? Like the one thing?
I feel like this is gonna be really cheesy, but I feel like fencing has taught me how to put in effort into something and know that I'm going to receive something back. Because I remember my coach would always tell me from when I started fencing in 4th grade, he would be like, no pain, no gain. So if you don't put in the effort into something, then obviously the gain that you get is not going to be equivalent. So he's always pushed me. He's always wanted me to do my best in every competition, to try my hardest in every practice, because he knows that the amount of effort is directly proportional to the amount of gain that I receive.
What do you enjoy the most about fencing?
Stabbing people. I feel like it's just meeting a lot of people around the world. I feel like that's one of the amazing parts about fencing, because this sport is an extremely small sport. So the people you meet, it's not where like it's just all the people in one region. It's more of like many people around the nation too. I know people from I have friends in New York, Philadelphia, to like California, San Francisco. It's just amazing how I get to experience talking to all these different people, talking to different coaches and different cultures.
Can you give a little crash course on fencing to someone who doesn't
Okay.
really understand it?
Okay, so basically fencing is comprised of 3 weapons. So there's the foil, there's the epee, and there's the saber. So the foil, I fenced foil. So foil, what it is that the difference is that the target area is only from the waist and to your neck, so only this area. Whereas the epee is anywhere, you can hit anywhere in the body and you can get a touch, you can score a point. Foil, it's only the torso area, and then saber is from the waist up to the head, so like anywhere there. Saber is more of like a slashing weapon. Foil is like a thrusting weapon, and then same with epee as a thrusting weapon, but epee is heavier. It's about a pound heavier than foil because I don't know why, just because. So the main difference is just the target area. Epee is more all body, saber foil is more waist up.
And what do your friends and family think about you being in fencing?
Well, my dad travels with me to all of these different competitions. I guess he's proud of me. Yeah, so my dad is very involved in fencing. He loves the sport. He actually really wants to try veterans, and I'm talking him into it, so maybe. But the thing is that I started fencing mostly because of my uncle, because my uncle is a fencing coach in Alabama, and when he saw me, because I like to run around the house when I was little, and he was like, hey, she's pretty athletic, she should join fencing. And I was like, okay, what is fencing? But yeah, so he actually introduced us to the club that I go to right now, which is Fencing Institute of Texas. So so that's how I started. My family's very supportive of me, and I'm very thankful for that. And my dad travels around the world with me, and that's just...
Yeah, that sounds so cool that you're able to do this, on top of your schoolwork. And you talked a lot about, balancing school and fencing, and I know that's so hard for many of us to do, but it's so great that you're able to do that,
Thank you so much.
So, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Yeah. And don't forget that this week is Scholastic Journalism Week. So thank you to our hosts, Nick and Andrés. Special thanks to our guest, world-class fencer Helen Tan, and to our producer, of course, Andrés. Thank you for joining us in the 5th episode of the Penny Podcast. All links to the articles talked about will be provided in the description box down below. Make sure to join us next Thursday for another installment of the Penny Podcast.
Yeah.